Yeah, sure, I'll do a Mariners video. I don't think anyone else has worked on one. The Cy Young Award was introduced to Major League Baseball in 1956, and it has been a massive mistake ever since. Okay, that's a bit far, but in our statistically enlightened age, it's easy to look back at previous Cy Young voting and realize that the best pitching performance didn't always win the award. For starters and relievers, baseball pun, there has historically been an emphasis on the rest of the team's success, as well as the pitcher's personal win-loss record. The problem should be obvious. These are things that the pitcher has very little control over. We can take a look at the first Cy Young vote to prove this. Keep in mind, the award was MLB-wide at the time. Here's 4 pitchers who contributed relatively the same value, but Don Newcomb takes it easily thanks to winning 27 games. Was he really that much better than everyone else? Fast forward to 1959, and Sam Jones of the Giants clearly has early win on the ropes. And although early wins one more game than Jones, it's not the decider. The decider, in this case, is team success, as Wynn's White Sox grabbed the American League pennant, while Jones's Giants finished third in the senior circuit. The shenanigans would continue. The 1970s, 80s, and early 90s were characterized by a weird infatuation with relief pitchers. In 1992, Dennis Eckersley even won MVP for a season that would be, kinda typical for Mariano Rivera. I get that obsessing over these awards might seem silly, but they become a significant part of a player's legacy. The Cy Young Award needed a savior. His name was Felix Hernandez. You may also know him as King Felix. Starting with his debut in 2005, he staked his claim as the best pitcher in baseball for the following decade. But if we're going to talk about 2005, there's one more case of Cy Young robbery that needs to be addressed. This is a screenshot of the Bill James Cy Young Predictor. You can find it on ESPN's website. It is one of the most fundamentally misunderstood things on the entire internet. The Predictor is frequently posted to places like Twitter or the baseball subreddit. In recent years, people pointed out that Dakota Hudson was in second place, or that Jacob deGrom was in 6th, and every time, without fail, people get mad online because they don't understand what the Cy Young Predictor is actually trying to do. So here's what it doesn't do. It doesn't tell you who the best pitcher is, and it doesn't tell you who is the most deserving of the Cy Young Award. What it does tell you, however, is how silly Cy Young voters can be. The prediction formula includes a huge emphasis on wins, losses, and saves. It also includes a 12-point victory bonus just for your team winning the division. It cares about those things because voters cared about them too, at least in 2004 when the formula was first presented. If you want an accurate measure for today's voter, simply utilize Tom Tango's Cy Young Predictor instead. It's pretty good. Let's look at the 2005 American League Cy Young race. The first place vote getters were the GOAT, Mariano Rivera, the Koufax-esque career of Johan Santana, and you know.
Looking for his first hit of the year. He drives one! Deep left field! That goes Upton! Back near the wall! It's out of here! Bartolo has done it!
Bartolo Colon, aka Substantial Seductive, had a phenomenal 2005. But a quick look at the pertinent numbers reveals that Johan Santana was even better. As for Rivera, he's in a different category with his reliever workload, but that ERA is really something. This was actually the closest he came to winning the Cy Young Award. The Bill James Predictor actually had Rivera taking home the hardware, with Bartolo in 2nd and Santana in 4th. That wasn't correct, but it did correctly predict that voters would favor Colon over the statistically superior Santana. It's probably because they were too distracted by his 285 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal. Voters overemphasize the pitchers' win-loss records, as well as their respective teams' performance yet again. It seems as if the Cy Young Award was not the award for the best pitcher, but the best pitcher with 20 wins on a playoff team. Pitcher wins and losses aren't a great indicator of performance because they're too dependent on the rest of the team. You can't get the win if the defense behind you screws up, or if the bats get shut down, or if the bullpen just blows it. You can certainly put your team in a position to win, but that doesn't always get you into the W column. This 3rd place finish for Santana broke up what could have been a Cy Young three-peat. I made the comparison to Koufax earlier. We're talking about 2 utterly dominant lefties who had their careers cut short. Is it possible that winning 3 Cy Youngs like Koufax would have put Johan into the Hall of Fame? If so, that would be a big injustice. Just 5 years after the Johan Santana robbery, Felix Hernandez fixed it. "2010 was King Felix's age 24 season. It was also his 6th season in the majors. As a 24-year-old myself, that fact makes me want to shoot myself directly into outer space." In 2009, he finished as the Cy Young runner-up to Zack Greinke, who had an unbelievable season. I don't think Zack Greinke really cared though. The only award he ever liked was when Mizuno sent him a samurai sword. Some people might think that's silly, but thankfully Zack Greinke can't hear them over the sound of him swinging his samurai sword. Part of what made Felix so effective is that he threw 5 different pitches with regularity. Fastball, sinker, curveball, slider, changeup. If you had a couple at bats against Felix, you could very likely see all of these devastating pitches. The changeup was probably the most visceral and downright nasty pitch in his arsenal. A changeup is supposed to be an off-speed pitch, but Felix threw it hard. One might normally hope for a large velocity gap between the fastball and changeup, but the difference between those 2 pitches from Felix was only 5 miles per hour. His changeup had the velocity of some pitchers' fastballs. We have seen this hard change employed by other pitchers recently, with Jacob deGrom being a great example, but Felix averaging 90 miles per hour was practically unheard of a decade ago. And boy did it work. You can see the movement for yourself. Hitters swung and missed at Felix's changeup over 23% of the time, making it the most likely of his pitches to generate whiffs. As an expert sinker baller, King Felix also emphasized generating ground balls when he couldn't get swings and misses, but his slider also had the much helpful effect of home run prevention. From 2009 to 2013, a 5-season stretch, Felix Hernandez tossed hitters 2,120 sliders. They hit just 7 home runs. That's a home run every 303 pitches, over twice as many as the American League average for sliders in that time frame. Thanks, baseball savant. 2010 Felix got off to a solid, but not elite start. He had a couple clunkers, including a start against the Angels where he allowed 7 earned runs and got chased in the 4th. He was on a roll by the time he reached the All-Star break, but was the victim of a 2010 All-Star snub. Despite being 1st in innings pitched, 3rd in FWAR, and 7th in ERA, the fans elected to send 11 American League starting pitchers not named Felix Hernandez. In the second half of the season, he pitched gem after gem after gem. The opponent didn't seem to matter. He'd pitch 8 scoreless innings in a dominant fashion, and he did this with stunning regularity. At the end of the season, he led the American League in innings pitched, earned run average, OPS against, and Baseball Reference WAR. He was, without a doubt, the best pitcher in the league. The obvious Cy Young winner, right? Actually, the odds were against him, because the team surrounding him, well, you should see for yourself. Pretend I'm a mechanic. Just humor me. You bring your 2010 Seattle Mariners into the shop. What seems to be the problem? This is how you talk, by the way. I have the best pitcher in the league, but I still lost more than 100 games. That's weird. Let's take a look under the hood. Oh, there's your problem. Your lineup is completely defective. Only Ichiro and Russell Branyan seem to be working. As for the rest, well, you should probably scrap it. Here are the most common Mariners starters by position, as well as their triple slash and OPS plus. There's a lot of numbers on this screen, so I'm just gonna flash the numbers that were below the American League average. Ready? Go. Okay, hopefully you get the point. The 2010 Seattle Mariners scored an embarrassing 513 runs. If you remove strike-shortened seasons, that's the lowest by an American League team in the designated hitter era. Wow, that's a lot of Seattle ineptitude on this list. Maybe they should be allowed to use multiple designated hitters. That lack of run support harmed King Felix in the win-loss department. In June, he allowed 2 runs in 9 innings against the Cubs. I would like to call that a complete game, but it went to extras with the Mariners ultimately losing in the 13th inning, a no decision for Felix. Another no decision came in July when Felix tossed 8 scoreless against the White Sox. Unfortunately, the Mariners' bats wouldn't wake up until the 11th inning. In his second to last start of the season, Felix allowed a first inning home run to Jose Bautista, then proceeded to throw a gem the rest of the way. Unfortunately, the Mariners batters did him no favors by again failing to score a single run. King Felix was saddled with the loss. This all culminated in a record of 13-12. Not 20 wins, not even 15, but a lowly unlucky 13. Ricky Nolasco had a 4.51 ERA and still managed to win 14 games with the Marlins that year. From 1967 to 2009, the AL Cy Young Award had been given out 43 times. 4 of them were relievers, 30 of them won 20 games, including a 31-win season from Denny McLain in the year of the pitcher. The rest of the starters each managed to win at least 16 games. In order to win the award, Felix was going to have to break down barriers. His incredible performance had put the ball in the BBWAA's court. How do we solve a problem like King Felix? Let's throw it back to the Bill James Cy Young Predictor, which was based on the old-fashioned habits exhibited by Cy Young voters of yesteryear. In a system where wins, losses, and team success matters a lot, Felix Hernandez would have finished 7th in projected Cy Young points. The top 2 pitchers on this list, David Price and CC Sabathia, were King Felix's main competition. Now, Felix had beat them in basically every non-win-loss category imaginable, but that didn't crown him immediately. One blogger argued, given that the award is named after baseball's only 500-game winner, that winning was the primary objective of the award itself, and that CC Sabathia, the Yankees ace and American League's only 20-game winner, deserved to win the award. At the conclusion of the regular season, writers for all 30 teams submitted their award votes. The results came out on the 18th of November. And the winner is Felix Hernandez. King Felix captured 21 of 30 first-place votes to secure his coronation as the American League Cy Young Award winner. Despite the best efforts of the Mariners offense and the pitcher win statistic, the deserving candidate had won. From Usenet to the blogs to the front offices, this was a win for the sabermetricians. A deserving starting pitcher with just 13 wins had taken home the hardware. It hasn't always been smooth sailing from there. In 2016, Justin Verlander lost a very close, controversial vote to Rick Porcello despite earning more first-place votes. But it also set the table for Jacob deGrom to win back-to-back Cy Young Awards with 10 and 11 wins respectively. Mets fans should be thankful that King Felix broke that stigma a decade ago. With the baseball season on quarantine and Felix Hernandez presumably contending for a spot on the Braves pitching staff, there are a lot of questions about what comes next. He just turned 34, making him younger than guys like Verlander and Scherzer, but it's a bruised and battered 34, as his arm has a ton of mileage, and his velocity has greatly declined from his prime. The 2010 season was the most innings tossed by a pitcher under 25 since 1990. He also appears on this list twice, just an absolute workhorse from a young age, although old Haas probably wouldn't be too impressed. Regardless of what comes next, Mariners fans will always have the man who single-handedly made Seattle baseball worth watching during some really dark years. And for the stats nerds, well, we'll always have 13 wins and 12 losses. This video doesn't have a corporate sponsor. Instead, it's brought to you by these fine supporters of the Foolish Baseball Patreon. To learn about all the bonus content you can unlock, go to patreon.com/foolishbaseball and watch my trailer video, which explains why you should give me $5. Otherwise, thanks for watching, take care, and wash your hands. It's what Zach Greinke would want.